Welcome to another edition of Tim Graham and Friends, brought to you by CTBK. I am Tim Graham of The Athletic, here with Jonah Bronstein of Bronstein Amalgamated, and Matthew Fairburn, also of The Athletic. He covers the Buffalo Bills. And it was a little strange. I was in the mood to watch some football on Sunday and didn't have the opportunity. My first I guess all of our first week without a game to cover or to be glued to for professional reasons and absorbing. And I was looking for some passive football observation, just to sit back and let football happen to me.
Well, good news for you, Tim. The Buffalo Sabres played at 1 p.m. on Sunday, and you could have watched that game instead.
Hockey doesn't, I had this feeling. It was Saturday night. And before I went to bed, I thought, I'm in the mood just to sit around tomorrow and watch football. And I might have even settled for a Pro Bowl, but we didn't even have that option.
It's been disorienting, like to pick your head up after a season like that and be like, all right, it's time to hunker down and get into the offseason. Then all of a sudden I'm like, it's February. Like, it was Senior Bowl last week, which was like, they're doing a Senior Bowl. Like, what the hell are they? What are they doing? And
too many years we were getting ready for the draft in December.
Yeah, sometimes earlier.
Yeah, because they're out of it, and that's the next interesting thing to look forward to, or free agency, whose contracts are up. We didn't really have to worry about that until a few weeks ago.
And you get so many of those weeks, like you talk about, where you can wake up and be like, I just want to watch football today. And it's like the really good football, divisional round, conference championships.
Yeah, that's
like
the thing.
We were in the middle of that.
As people who cover sports in Western New York, and the Bills in particular, is that there were no primetime games other than the Thursday night game. And then they'd occasionally get the Monday night road game. But we were covering games at Sunday, 1 o'clock. You'd finish and we'd watch the Sunday night game at the bar, probably have a few beers and get something to eat. And then Monday night, we had that option of getting together and watching. And it was usually good football. It was when you'd say, oh, so this is what the NFL looks like. Because it's
especially in the playoffs.
It's not what I cover. And then the playoffs, then you'd settle
wild card weekend, divisional round, conference championship, 3 best weekends of the year. But when you're covering 8:30, 8:15 kickoff, your Sunday's kind of like just pulling yourself together from doing that. And it's like, well, if these games aren't close, I'm not going to be glued to it, or you just don't have the energy for it. And
I'm not complaining. Yeah. I'm not saying I'm glad I'm covering meaningful football, but the what we're used to is this routine of just, all right, work. Covering the Bills was work. I mean, well, look, all right, I'm not going to be so, we're watching sports for a living. I get it. But covering the Bills this year, it is work. It pays at any time you have a boss and a deadline, it's a job. It does pay our bills. But watching the Bills this year, I'd still feel some energy. It's a Monday night game. The world is watching. That everybody, the games are more meaningful, but similar feel I'd get when I was covering playoff hockey. Everybody's hanging on everything you're going to be writing or saying. Whereas those 1 o'clock Sunday kickoffs, who knows who cared what you were going to be writing.
Yeah, it was different because of the season that they had, you don't feel as immersed in it when you're covering a lot of it from where we're sitting right now. But those last few games when fans started to get into the building again and it's the playoffs, like you said, it's the weekend I'm usually used to sitting on my couch and watching these games. It's like, oh, now everybody's sitting on their couch watching this game that I'm at. So that part was, there was a second wind to the season, because it was a long year of wondering whether they would play, wondering how long it would go, postponements, different things like that. And then to get to a point where it's like, all right, these games gave you a little bit of extra energy, but it was, it's been funny to look up at the calendar and realize it's February and there's only one football game left. And, there's only one football game after the last one the Bills played. That's rare in these parts.
The shift, and I know Jonah can speak to this too, but your love for basketball, maybe it's not as pronounced as it is for me. But this is the time when, within the last couple of weeks, historically, I start shifting to, all right, let's watch some basketball. Duke played Miami last night. Duke, which is about 500, against Miami, which is a little under 500. And there are no fans. And I tried to watch this game, and it's like there's no energy in these games. So there's the shift off of the NFL for me to finding a sport that it just isn't happening. Hockey's not doing it for me. Everything is the sterile environment, although the Sabres are playing okay. I don't know. What are your thoughts on the brand of basketball that we're seeing, Jonah?
Well, I do want to make one comment that just normally the week before the Super Bowl is the NHL All-Star game, and that fills a little bit of the void, at least for Buffalonians and people in NHL markets. And it was just kind of interesting. Everybody seemed to be missing football this past week, but I didn't hear too many people lamenting that there was no NHL Skills Challenge on Saturday.
It is a terrible, terrible event.
But there is NHL hockey. I've covered some of the games. It's an interesting experience, as you guys would know from the football games, being at these games with no fans, but still the same music and crowd noise and experience in some ways. Basketball-wise, we talked about this with Gerald a couple weeks ago. I like watching the games, but I can watch a lot of basketball games and be entertained by them without the same context that other people require to get into the games. But it is different. It's a weirder experience. I think the NBA is better now than it was during the bubble, at least from a television standpoint. I don't really notice that the crowd's not there, or in some places the crowd has returned. And a lot of it has to do with those video boards with the fans there. It's a little jarring at first. It takes some getting used to how it looks. But that does stimulate a crowd. And I think a lot of the television sports that have incorporated that type of virtual crowd, once you get used to it, I like that better than the totally empty arenas.
How about courtside Karen last night, speaking to fans at stadiums? What?
I missed that. What are you talking about?
Oh, dear.
Is this the girl that was yelling at LeBron?
Yeah, and he called.
I saw a reference to it, but I didn't know the whole story.
Yeah, he tweeted about courtside Karen after the game, so that's not what she's called. And she then posted something on social media in which she was saying, you think you're a big man getting into an argument with a 25-year-old woman, and the reaction was, "You're not 25." She's digging herself a hole.
Why
so
are there
people
fans
are looking at her, and
was this a virtual fan, or why are there fans close enough to?
Well, that was my reaction.
She was a legit fan.
She was courtside,
with her mask down, standing up and
courtside.
Yeah.
That's what is weird about this year, and it was kind of this way in football, but it's also now in the other sports where you get so locked into what's happening in Buffalo and what's happening with the Bills or the Sabres or whatever, and then all of a sudden you're like, something like this happens, and you're like, wait a second, people are courtside in other places, or there were things that would happen where you're like, wait, there's 20,000 fans in that. I was watching a college football game this fall, and Georgia had like a third capacity or something, and you're like, wait, what the hell? Like, there's that many people. The courtside fan. Well, it was same state, Georgia. But yeah, I don't know why they've already transitioned into.
So this was a Hawks fan, because Hawks don't usually get fans even when they're allowed to have fans.
It was a Hawks fan, yes.
In theory.
Yeah, well, yes.
It was a patron of a basketball game in Atlanta.
And she was mad at LeBron, so
who clearly went there with some sort of ready to start a fight.
I thought you were going to say clearly went there with some sort of blood alcohol content.
Well,
which probably also was true.
Maybe. If she didn't go there with that, if she didn't go there with that, you would assume she left with it.
She got tossed. LeBron said she shouldn't have been ejected. I think she should have been ejected because she had her mask pulled down and she was like getting, I wouldn't want if I were in the NBA, I wouldn't want my fans pulling down their masks and jawing with my players from 10 feet away, screaming at them. Hey, before we get any further, You mentioned Gerald Dixon. Gerald Dixon hasn't been on the show for a couple of weeks, and we've talked about it, but I feel like I need to reinforce it because people ask me. We're trying to get Gerald on the show, but he's got a new job, and he has some protocols that he must go through. He's the recruiting director at Vanderbilt. Pretty impressive job. He got an SEC gig. He's moved to Nashville. On the Vanderbilt website, though, he's Smoke Dixon. He's not Gerald Smoke Dixon or Gerald Dixon, aka Smoke. He is now Smoke Dixon. Is that a thumbs up or a thumbs down?
Maybe he's trying to make it so when people find him on there and they Google him, they don't find this podcast. Because now he's Smoke.
Yeah, that's true. They don't want to see this. Yeah, I like the nickname Smoke. You know, that's Joe Walcott was old
the
Smoke.
First time I heard it, and now there's about 5 players on every team, or at least 1 player on every team that's nicknamed Smoke.
Yeah, let me make sure I have that right.
But not enough Smokies. Smokey Robinson, Smokey the Bandit, and I don't know if we've had another good Smokey in decades.
John Morrissey, Old Smoke. He was a bare knuckle boxer in the 1860s. Always thought that was a cool nickname.
You have to be fast to be nicknamed Smoke, which I guess makes sense, but you could create smoke in real life without speed. It only takes fire.
There's Derek Smoke Gaynor, who was Roy Jones Jr.'s stablemate, was constantly getting smoked in the ring. I wanted to say, well.
He's just out there reinventing himself. Not really. I mean, he's been Smoke for a while, but
he's been Smoke since what? What did he say? He picked that up in high school or middle school or something like that?
Yeah, I think high school. I don't know. Good for it's a good gig. I think it's a good fit too.
Good job for the former Gerald Dixon.
Yeah, exactly. The F, formerly known as Gerald.
I retweeted. I was going to call him a great F, but it was the Vanderbilt head coach had tweeted out the announcement. I didn't want to confuse anybody, especially, with Vanderbilt's upper crust taste.
That's
I would not.
Highbrow.
Yeah, it is. Vanderbilt, what do they call it? The Harvard of the South. Tim Graham and Friends is brought to you by CTBK, CPAs and Business Consultants. CTBK is a leading accounting firm with a growing team of accountants and business consultants with roots in Amherst, New York. CTBK pairs every project with a focus on a human connection between its team and the client. For assurance, accounting, taxes, litigation support, and advice on mergers and acquisitions, CTBK is available and ready to solve any issue your business faces. For a consultation or to request a quote, call 716-630-2400. Again, that's 716-630-2400. Shampoo Travis, Besaw, and Kirshner. Over a quarter century of proven accounting and business excellence for Western New York and beyond. Sorry, I cut somebody off there. Had to give my read. Had to give my props and my pay my allegiance to CTBK. It's tax season.
That's right.
They're busy over there.
I thought of one more thing I wanted to respond to with Tim. I went to the UB basketball game that they lost at the buzzer on Friday. And some of the basketball games I've been to, I do appreciate one aspect of having no crowds and a quieter atmosphere. You can hear the coaches yelling at the refs, and you can hear the energy from the bench, and you can hear the players MF each other on the court. And that's a lot of fun. I don't know if that's translating on television. I haven't noticed that on the TV games I watch, but when you're there, you catch a bit of that.
I wonder, I haven't watched enough games to know, but are technicals up because referees feel like if they know the game is being broadcast and it's like, I can't let that guy get away with having said that to me and the whole world knows it versus, well, maybe nobody heard him say that.
I haven't noticed them being up, and they might even be down because I think the crowd, the players and the coaches feed off the energy in the crowd sometimes when they're trying to get technicals. That happens often too. But I have noticed this weird dance that coaches play where they have the mask on and the ref does something that they don't like, either makes a call or doesn't make a call, and they yell and the ref ignores them. and then they take down the mask, and it's like, you sure you heard me complaining about that call? I just want to make sure. And sometimes they just take down the mask so you can see them make their shocked face, because, like, you can't roll your eyes at the ref that effectively with a mask on. It's just an interesting thing I've noticed coaches doing. Some coaches, not all. Jim Whitesell, I should say, I've never seen him pull his mask down among the other coaches that I have seen that from.
There does seem to be a little entitlement with some coaches, who barely wear it. Mike Krzyzewski didn't have his mask on too much last night.
It makes no sense when
He's kind of, I guess, wearing it like a beard.
Yeah, I'm going to wear it for show when I'm not talking, but when I need to open my mouth and expel my respiratory droplets, I'm going to take this mask off just in case you can't hear me or read my lips or something when I have the mask on. They should be wearing the mask the whole time. I cover a Sabres game or a UB game. I don't take my mask off at any point in time, unless sometimes to sneak a sip of water if you have to. But other than that, you don't need to take the mask off to talk or yell or roll your eyes at the referee.
And the mask doesn't cover your eyes.
Right.
Yeah. So nonverbal cues should be at a premium now. So refs that are known for stomping, histrionics. I wonder how Bob Knight would be handling. Who is there a contemporary Bob Knight, or is that style of coaching so out of style?
Mike Krzyzewski is a Bob Knight disciple. He has a different personality, but
right. But in terms of the really riding the ref, screaming at his guys, stomping,
Bobby Hurley's nuts.
Yeah.
I don't know if I've caught them this year. Fran McCaffrey at Iowa. I mean, I think the coaches are doing a lot of stuff, but maybe without the crowds, they don't get as amped up. And some of that's a performance sometimes. So I haven't seen it as much. One thing I noticed that the assistant coaches stand a lot more, because that whole bench area is wide open, and it's a different kind of thing with the coaches standing and watching and getting a little bit more engaged in the action.
The players are staying. You have room to kind of pace around a little bit.
Right. It looks like how you'd see teams interact in a practice or a scrimmage setting a little bit more. They're not all sitting on the bench and kind of glued to the chairs as much as they used to be.
Check back with Tim Graham and friends, brought to you by CTBK later in the week. We're going to have Harrison Phillips from the Buffalo Bills on to talk about two nominations, very prestigious nominations. He's a finalist for I've kind of botched this little teaser, haven't I? This is happening in this show. Let me start over on that. Be sure to check back later in the week. We're going to have Joel Stanishevsky. He's going to talk about Super Bowl bets. Joel, by the way, let me find my record book here. Joel Stanishevsky on the year prior to his props. Huh?
How much does he owe you?
I should owe him. People who listen to this show should be sending him a percentage of their winnings if they were placing their bets appropriately. 30, 20, and 5 for the season. Joel, that's against the number. That is against the spread, the total, whatever. Those were pregame bets that he suggested right here on these airwaves. What are we? Streamwave? What? They're not waves at all, I guess, on this digital conduit. So anyway, Joel Stanishevsky is going to go over some of the prop bets, which are always fun on Super Bowl week. And I guess I'll let him decide whether or not he wants the props to play in his season total. Because the prop bets so many times just come down to they're calculated coin flips. They're just trying to get you to, who's going to score more points, Tyreek Hill or
Antonio Brown,
LeBron James. I'm thinking how they do across sports.
Oh, true.
Although that's a bad one, because basketball. But Jordan was always a tie-in when I lived in Vegas. It was who's going to score more points on Sunday, the Cowboys as a team or Jordan versus the Bucks or whatever. Later on in this show, Buffalo Bills defensive tackle Harrison Phillips is going to talk to us about his nominations for Community Service Awards. He is a finalist for the NFL Players Association's Alan Page Community Award, which is going to be announced on Thursday. And he's the Bills nominee for the Walter Payton Man of the Year, which is going to be announced Super Bowl weekend. I think it gets announced Super Bowl Sunday, or the NFL Honors. I'm sorry, the NFL Honors, which is the night before. We'll check with Harrison Phillips on that. He's going to be coming up in a couple of minutes. He'll know. Any closing thoughts here before we get to Harrison Phillips? What else is on the what's on the plate?
This is, Tim?
I thought you were flipping me off. Is that your middle finger?
But you could call, you know what else you could call this? A digital conduit.
You're right. That is. Well, let's hear from Harrison Phillips, and he can tell us about all the charity work he's been doing around Western New York. And thanks as always to everyone for listening to Tim Graham and Friends, brought to you by CTBK. Harrison Phillips, defensive tackle of the Buffalo Bills, and interesting week for him. I'm sure he would like to have been really jam-packed with a lot of preparations this week, but Harrison Phillips is up for two major awards. He's the Buffalo Bills nominee for the Walter Payton Man of the Year award, and he's also the NFLPA's finalist for their Alan Page Community Award. And we wanted to have Harrison on to talk about his community service. And you don't get nominated for those awards, though, if you're not on the field and doing well, because that is a component of winning, especially the Walter Payton Man of the Year award and being nominated. Well, Harrison, congratulations on all your success this year, personally and otherwise. And thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it, and glad to be able to be on here.
What does it mean to be nominated for these awards?
I mean, it truly is. It goes down as my greatest accomplishment, really, to this day, and it doesn't really matter if I win these awards. Just to be nominated and be the Buffalo Bills representative as well as a finalist out of the entire NFLPA. That's remarkable in itself. And it's kind of bizarre because unlike football awards, like oftentimes people are working to get a Pro Bowl nomination. That's their goal, or to be league MVP. That's what they're working for. These awards come without, even trying. And I think that's what's the most special about it, is no one seeks out at the start of the year and says, okay, I got to do however many events I got to do this year, pay this much money to kids or whatever it is to get nominated. It just doesn't work like that. And because it's voted on by, your teammates, they can see through that and kind of who's more authentic and who's just doing it, for maybe alternative reasons. And so to be nominated for these, it really means a lot. And I'm just so happy at the awareness it brings to the organizations and the kids and the people that I work with. I've got some of my playmakers who've been on nationally televised games with 15 million people watching, and some of the photos and videos of events that I've done and kids that I've worked with getting viral on social media because an NFL or NFLPA gets a hold of it or whatever it may be. And so it's truly a blessing just to see the positive eyes on kids from Western New York and the Buffalo area, as well as my hometown in Omaha, Nebraska. And so super blessed, and hoping for some good luck this week. But like I said, I feel like I've already won enough.
To give a little background on each award, the Walter Payton Man of the Year award actually goes back to 1970, even though Walter Payton entered the league in, I think, 1974, 1975. It was renamed for Walter Payton in 1999 because of the type of person that he was on and off the field. And every year, each team nominates its candidate. And in the past, it has been whittled down to a set of finalists during Super Bowl week. But over the past 3 years, the NFL has decided to leave everybody in play for Super Bowl week. So Harrison Phillips is still considered as much of a candidate as the 31 others. And Harrison has already received $40,000 from the NFL to donate to his charity of choice, which I'm guessing was Playmakers.
Yeah.
Right. And the winner gets $250,000 for his charity, and of course gets to wear that pretty cool logo that they put on the jerseys that you see only a select number of guys wear. Drew Brees, and I think there were only 4 players in the NFL, or maybe 5. Jason Witten, because he came back out of retirement, that wear that cool logo where you see the captain's patches on the jerseys. They also get a Walter Payton Man of the Year insignia put on there. And then the Alan Page Award, the finalists have been named, and they include Geno Atkins of Cincinnati, Kevin Byard of Tennessee, Hayden Hurst in Atlanta, Pat Mahomes in Kansas City, and of course, Harrison Phillips, who is the only defensive tackle in that list. So Alan Page played the position. Maybe that's some good juju for you heading into the NFLPA's honor, which is going to be announced on Thursday. Tell us about your week and what this is going to be like for you, and as these honors are bestowed.
Yeah, so there's a little bit of legwork that has to be done to like receive some of that money. The Alan Page Award comes with some money, but you have to do some things for them. And so one of them, they sent this giant productions test kit with a technician that had to plug it in. And it was a 2.5-hour process, so that on yesterday's athlete and workshop that the NFLPA put on, us 4 finalists did an interview for about an hour and had the mics and everything all set up. So I did that yesterday, as well as we had a virtual meet and greet for the Walter Payton Man of the Year. So the Walter Payton family was on there. Nationwide was on there, who's the sponsor of the award. The NFL commissioner, Roger, was on there, as well as the nominees. And so to get a chance to speak to them, although I'd love to do it in person and thank them for, Walter Payton's legacy and Nationwide for sponsoring it and putting such a positive light in association with NFL football players. They do a great job switching that rhetoric that NFL football players aren't, constantly getting in trouble or in jail, or all these different things. They're showing that majority of NFL players are fantastic people who serve their communities, and that's part of what being a football player is in today's world, being a role model and doing the right things. So knock those out. I got a couple more interviews this week. The NFL sent me some COVID tests that we have to take before me and my girlfriend are flown down to Tampa, where we're with nominees. They don't have any in-person events while we're down there, aside from sitting with the nominees in Roger Goodell's suite for the game. That's kind of the only cherry on top. But there'll be some other Zoom things and virtual events and meet and greets and things like that to celebrate us. And then, I'm either in Buffalo, where you guys know the snow that's going down, or in Omaha, where it's supposed to be -2 degrees. So going to Tampa will be nice just to be down there for a few days. But obviously it's really sting. It's going to sting pretty damn bad sitting in that suite watching the game. I can tell you that.
Harrison, what was this year like? It strikes me that being nominated for these awards in a year when community service was probably needed more than a lot of other years, but also harder to do in the way that you like to do it, being hands-on and having face-to-face. So I don't know, walk us through what the year was like for you, some of the stuff that you did and how you managed to still have the impact on the community while having to do it in a safe way and get through a football season.
Yeah, that's a really good point, and I've thought about that too. That's why this year really is special. It's one that we're always going to remember. This season's one that everyone's always going to remember. And so to be the nominee for this year, when we had so many guys doing stuff, it was truly remarkable. But I think, I got a lot of the groundwork in kind of before the shutdown. So still this year, I think I put on at least 2 or 3 events before things really got shut down earlier in the spring. But then as the season, the year went on, one of the first things I did was put out that Playmaker Challenge. So to all my kids with developmental differences and special needs, I asked them to go around their communities and do a chore, pick up trash, clean the streets, the streams, the parks, and send me a photo or video of them doing that. I was going to pay them $10 to do that chore, but instead of actually getting them the money, it was going to be in the form of a donation to doctors and nurses. And throughout the country, we ended up getting close to 1,000 meals donated to doctors and nurses throughout the community, the communities that their kids served in. And then we did some, physical activity challenges where they, send in videos of them working out at home or getting their 60 minutes of activity in. And then, one of the big things where we kind of shifted, and like I like to say, that my heart isn't biased. I don't only just work with the playmakers or with my kids. I got a lot of love to give. And so when I found out that the Buffalo Public Schools had such a big issue without the Wi-Fi, my wheels kind of got to turn and figure out how I could get involved. And it's a big task to try to tackle by yourself. And so I rallied as many guys as I could. Gave a speech in front of our team about a way that we could do this logistically, talking with the Pagulas, our social justice team, and found out a way to donate over $500,000 so that those 4,000 plus households, 8,000 kids, had access to internet at their homes this year, so they wouldn't fall so far behind. That was obviously a big thing. And then I was named a community MVP by the NFLPA for my drive-in movie theater event that I put on. And that was an event that I thought I was going to be able to go to. And then 24 hours beforehand, NFL came out with a new rule saying that you couldn't. So scrambled a little bit, but still got 200 families in the transit drive-in up there. And had them play the Little Giants, and they all got play packs again. Promoting healthy at-home workout habits that, these kids have to stay active while they're staying at home. So they had jump ropes in there, trading cards, and each one had a different, 5 push-ups, 6 air squats to kind of go through the deck. And then I was able to zoom on for, half hour, 45 minutes and explain the play packs, talk a little bit about the Bills season, again, encourage them. Every time I try to get in front of the kids, I try to tell them a tip or something that I wish I would have told my younger self, or that would have helped me along. And this time I told them about surrounding yourself with the right type of friends, because I'm a firm believer you are who you hang out with. So I asked them, to make sure that they're always trying to find the top student in the class, the best student in PE, the best athlete, try to become friends with them. And ultimately you'll kind of better yourself doing that. And the fire department was there, and the police department was there as well. So that they can, that's something that I really encourage, because I've heard some horror stories of buildings that are on fire. And when there's so much smoke walking through there, and you see a firefighter in full uniform with a gas mask, make it sounding like Darth Vader, and lights beeping and stuff, that some of these kids with autism and Down syndrome would run away from that and hide themselves in a closet because they're scared. And so to get those police and fire department up and get in full uniform and walk around to the kids and say, I'm friendly, I'm here to help. If you ever see me, run to me, those type of things. And then, there's some at-risk kids from the inner city that came to my event as well. And so to have the police officers there in a time that, there's a lot of mixed feelings about them, I think it was very rewarding for a lot of people to kind of strengthen those community bonds.
Harrison, I'm always interested in asking players about their community work. What inspires you, and what leads into your decisions over what specific causes and charities that you choose to support? I'm always interested in hearing kind of what the inspiration is behind the why of what you do.
Well, I know, like, my love for the kids that I work with, specifically, the kids with developmental differences and special needs. I remember a time vividly in 6th grade when, 6th grade, new school, bigger school, big lunchroom. Went to the lunchroom for the first couple of weeks of school, sat at my table that had it was the athlete table, the football players, my wrestling buddies, basketball buddies, whatever it was. I remember one day I was running late, stayed in the classroom for 5 extra minutes. When I got to lunch, that table was already full. and then the other table I'd maybe sit at was full as well. And so I looked around the lunchroom, and I saw the table of our special education students with the special education teachers. And I went over there and sat down. And I saw the principal kind of walked over. The teachers were very skeptical that I was maybe making a joke or doing something, that a naughty 6th grade boy would do. But I was there just genuinely to meet new people and to create some friendships. And that's exactly what I did. And so, for the rest of the year, half the lunches I'd sit at my table with the athletes. The other half of the lunches I'd sit over there with my new friends. And many of those kids ended up going to my prom group or came with me to homecoming, and in my circle of friends come to my graduation, my football games. I always try to include them in things. And that was I realized how great of people they are and how much I can learn from those kids. So that was kind of my passion, to always work with them. I do a lot of things with a lot of different people. So really just any cool story I hear, I'm about it. There was a family in Buffalo that I heard of. I don't know what, city in Buffalo, if it was Williamsville or maybe it was a little further east actually, but their house burnt down, 4 kids, a single mother. And one of the playmakers sent it to me and said they knew them through a family friend. And so me and my board got together. We donated, 7 pairs of clothes, 7 pairs of clothes, shirts, shorts, stuff, pair of shoes for all the kids, found out their shirt sizes and clothes size and sent that to them. And then it was kind of close to the holidays. So got them a bunch of Bills swag and bobbleheads, football, stuff like that, because they lost everything. So if I hear something about a war vet, I'll go out of my way to try to reach out to them or get to the VA and visit them. I don't know, I'm a sucker for good people. And, I realize that people really care about NFL football players. I'm only going to be in this position for a certain amount of time. I want to impact as many lives and change as many lives as I can.
One of the things that always struck me about your philanthropy, Harrison, and it led me in part, I like to write about these types of stories anyway, but I was particularly drawn to telling your story last year because you didn't want the exposure or the attention, I should say. Exposure is one thing. Exposure is always good for charity, but you were doing all of these things kind of off the radar. You would show up at Women and Children's Hospital. You'd call them and say, hey, I'd like to stop by today. It wasn't a staged event with photographer and all this other type of thing. You would just show up when you wanted to show up. And it was often, from what I was told by DJ Jixter. It's funny to say that, I don't think that it says DJ Jixter on his driver's license, but
it might.
You know what? By
At
now
this
it might.
point, I think
right.
it probably does.
It probably does. But he says he kind of connected us because I was working at the station at the time, and he was he's at 97 Rock, and we were doing the show on Sports Fan. Anyway, I digress. But he had kind of convinced you to talk to me and said, Tim, you got to tell this guy's story. And so anyway, I guess how have you towed that line between really not wanting that publicity and yet things like being nominated for Walter Payton Man of the Year Award, to be a finalist for the Allen Page Community Award, talking with The Athletic about what you do opens things up for getting your message out?
Yeah, I think it's a really good point. And Jigsaw was one of those people who it was always constantly like saying, hey, when you're doing this, post something on Instagram, like put out on Twitter some of the great work that you're doing in the community. But that just never was the MO. And through college, I was involved with so much stuff. My Playmakers was taken off. I tutored at an elementary school and a preschool 2 different days a week. I helped create the Fellowship of Christian Athletes at Stanford and FCA, would serve at the homeless shelter. I was just doing so much, but that was just like, that's what I do. I wake up, I do this. And not to say that people didn't care back then, but when you're just a college athlete at a stand, there's so much else going on. That doesn't pick up a lot of traction in Silicon Valley. There's so much going on. They want to write about the A's, the Raiders, the San Francisco 49ers. There's a lot of stuff going on. So me doing community service work, and it didn't really get a lot of traction. I just did it because that's what I felt was my calling, and I got joy out of it. And I could see the lives that I was impacting, speaking at different high schools and volunteering for PE classes, whatever it was. I filled up all my free time serving, and I got to the NFL, and the first year kind of went by, and people probably thought I was a normal rookie. But until we really kind of discussed what I was doing, I was visiting the hospital once a month. I was serving, going above and out of my way to meet up with random fans who I heard had, just were going through dialysis or had lost somebody to cancer. Oh, hey, meet me at the Bills store. Let's meet. Let me talk to you. So a lot of that stuff just went under the radar. And then, Jigster was like, you realize that, this exposure isn't like a humble brag for you. The exposure brings Bills Mafia to see what you're doing, and they can help the cause. And you guys see that with when Josh Allen's grandmother and what they did for Oshai Trillips Hospital. When they get behind something, it brings a lot of help to that. And so I would say I've gotten, obviously I haven't had anything like that newsworthy that they got behind me. But even if it's just 2 or 3 people see that I went up to High Point and they've never heard of High Point before, maybe 2 or 3 people donated $50 that year. $150 still helps out. And, maybe I inspired some help. I've had a couple Bills fans say, oh, we saw your challenge for playmakers and we told our kids to do the same thing. And here's a picture of my son mowing our neighbor's lawn for free, or whatever it was. And so I realized now that coming on year 3, going on to year 4, there's a big benefit to actually making it known what you're doing. And that it's taken me a couple of years to kind of get out of my comfort zone and share more about that. Obviously, I don't share intimate things or more private. But if I'm going to do a bigger event, I'm always going to share it on social media or let people know, press like you guys know, you could come down or write a story about it, just because I know the positive repercussions it has for those individuals I'm working with. But it is a weird line to walk, because if I'm just constantly in your face, oh, I'm at this place this week, I'm doing this tomorrow, then Thursday I'm doing it, it can feel a little, like I said, humble brag. And I never want to give out that, off that vibe. It's very genuine to me.
One of the other things that I kind of stumbled into when you're doing these stories, I think somebody's genuineness does have a tendency to reveal itself, the level of how genuine they are. And I interviewed Brianna Maldonado. You suggested, because you had a relationship with her. And there's 2 things about that. Number one was she lives at High Point, which you mentioned. And when I sat down with the people at High Point with Brianna in one of their conference rooms there to interview her, a nurse and one of the communications executives mentioned that Bills players don't come by High Point. And that wasn't a knock on them. It was because there are so many obvious, like Oshai. Everybody, it's just so out there, and they have a lot of exposure already. And so people naturally will say, I want to donate to Oshai. Or even with me, and my charity of choice is Make-A-Wish of Western New York. I mean, that's like you automatically think. But High Point is one you don't think about. And they had made it a point to mention to me that you found them. And I thought that's pretty impressive, that you went and looked for a place that doesn't get a lot of that interaction. And then the other part of that was in talking with Brianna and then interviewing you, you had mentioned to me how you get closest to the patients or the families that aren't coming home, that are in these facilities. High Point is a lifetime, mostly from people who have to live with assisted living, and Brianna, I think, is 20, in her early 20s. So, she's going to be in this facility for a long time, hopefully, but can you maybe touch on that? The idea that meeting a kid at Oshai with a broken arm, you're going to probably say, hey, keep your spirits up. But somebody like Brianna, you're going to see over and over and over again, and you get closer, you learn their stories because they aren't going home, and they will always be there at High Point.
Yeah, absolutely. In the 40 some times I've been up to Oshai, there's been a handful of times that I'll see the same kids, mainly on the the pediatric cancer unit. Those guys constantly coming in for chemo or whatever, epilepsy. I'll see a couple of the same kids that I get to know a little bit better. But like you said, a lot of it's oh, we don't have anybody in today, or we got some guys on floor 8, or what, and it's broken arm, or got in a bike crash, or just not feeling good, or, you know, appendicitis, not to downgrade these things, but in and out in a couple weeks. And so there's a lot of turnover, and it's good to make their day while they're there for 7 days. But these other kids at High Point, who, like you said, it's a life sentence. You know, they're happy to leave to go pick up McDonald's. That's a vacation to a lot of these kids and families there. And so to go there and hear some of the stories, and you know, Bree's a good story. You know, her family's still involved. She's very you know, highly functioning. There's a lot worse stories than hers, but to go there and try to make an impact, and to walk around the rooms, and to hear, you know, oh, I remember the last time I was playing with Gabby, she really liked the little rainmaker because it made noise. So then for Christmas that year, I was able to go, oh, these are presents that I should give to Gabby because she likes these things. Or Jackson really loves stuff that lights up, so I found stuff that had as many lights on it as possible, you know, for Christmas for them. Bree, you know, I remember she had, I think, a small little Kindle, and it was like the size of a Kindle, or like an old-fashioned iPod. And she was trying to use that to Google stuff. And I knew she really wanted an iPad. So for Christmas, I got her an iPad, so she was able to Google all her bills, facts, and I think I'm her background. So I think that was a promise I made to her. I said, if you take this present, I got to be your background. But it's really good to have those longer relationships. And you know, even with my playmakers, instead of guys just doing one football camp every year, they see kids once and wait 365 days to see them again. That's why I like so many activities through the year, is each time I kind of like, okay, this is the kid that I'm going to try to get close with at this event and get to know him really well, walk around he or her. And then next event, you know, do another kid. So I get to know them on a really personal level. But yeah, High Point is a very special place. The only other family I know in Western New York that does some things with them is the Kellys. You know, Jill and Jim have been there. You know, I think they've gone a little less often because of how hard it is to go through there and hear some of the stories. And I don't know if I'm allowed to share this person's name. So I'll say one of the kids there, you know, he's been there. He had an accident that caused a brain injury. And so he's can't hear, can't see. They don't know what his consciousness is like. He's hooked up to stuff that keeps him alive. You hope that when I'm in the room and I'm talking to him and telling him about the season or whatever it may be, that he's hearing it, but we don't know for sure, because those tests are so expensive. And the sad part of it is the family doesn't want to pay for those tests or doesn't care enough. And, you know, sometimes when I go to those rooms, when there's people in that state, I'll ask, you know, is the family involved? Should I leave some presents for when mom, dad, brother, sister come? And to hear how many rooms I go to, and they say, you don't need to leave anything because no one comes. Or, oh, this person's family hasn't been here in 9 months. This person's family hasn't been here, and this person hasn't had a single visitor in his 7 years with us. I mean, this stuff just breaks your heart. And so it's a very special place, but it takes a lot to go there. But I have a very deep appreciation for the doctors and nurses who work there and how well they treat those kids and young adults.
On a more uplifting note, and I should have included this in the story when I included that you do this, but I don't think I really got into why you do this. With Playmakers, you have the kids, which it's going to initially sound like you're getting free labor out of it, but you have these kids work, wrapping presents, doing things for first responders, for frontline workers. And the initial response might be, hey, cut these kids a break. But you did explain to me that that these kids really enjoy it. Like to have kids who get things they do understand on a much deeper level how good it feels to get something, and they like to help. Can you just tell us about that, and then
yeah,
and then we can let you get moving.
Because of my relationship with you know, kids somewhere on the spectrum from a young age, I learned to realize that you know, depending on where they are, majority of these kids know that they have a disability. you can talk to, Blake or some of the kids that I work with, and he'll tell you I'm a Down syndrome young adult, and I struggle doing this and I struggle doing this. These are some things that take me longer to do. And so they know about it. And so, they have enough consciousness to know if someone's treating them different. And you put two and two together. Hey, I have a disability. He's talking to me the same way he talked to that 4-year-old. That's offensive to some of these kids. And so you just want to treat them like, normal people at their age, however you treat a 17-year-old at a football camp. And so if Reed's not running hard enough on the ladder drill, I'm going to go over there and yell Reed to start picking it up at his feet and get it going.
I know who you're talking about with Reed too. Reed, I saw him at the Dave and Buster's event too. Reed, Reed, he'll run through a wall for you.
Oh yeah, well he'll run through me when he sees
right.
me. It's like
any human in his path, right?
Yeah, he's gonna Brian Urlacher or Tremaine Edmonds coming down in the hole tackle. But yeah, it's good. And we have a couple kids who are just at the age where we're going to try to start working with the Chick-fil-A in Buffalo to get them hired, employ them. And some of our other kids we have on my board. I have a kid board of the playmakers. And so putting them in a leadership role where we say, hey, at my camp, what's better? Do we want a clown that's making you guys balloon hats, or do we want a petting zoo? What seems more fun? Or do you want to jump rope, or do we want to do tic-tac-toe with big blocks? So, having kids help push the pedal on what we want to do as a playmakers community. But yeah, I think just to touch your point, letting these kids are passionate about caring and helping others. And if me and 25 of my family and friends, if we were all walking on the street and, we saw somebody, a normal aged man, a 30-year-old kind of tripped on the curb and fell down and got back up, all 25 of us would probably still keep walking. My playmakers would run over there in a heartbeat and make sure that he's okay. He didn't, even though he just a little trip and come back up, those guys, that's just innate. Hey, are you okay? How can I help? And so that's why they hop on board with all the events that we do, and are staying late to finish their Christmas card, or to wrap presents, or to go out in the community and pick up trash because they want to help.
One real quick point. I know we're kind of running out of time. I'm starting to feel like I'm.
Well, I told you I was chatty.
Yeah, that's true. Well, we all are on this Foursquare. It should never be understated, and I think it gets overlooked a lot when you're talking about helping out these kids. And you did mention some of the very sad things at High Point where their families aren't involved, but with a lot of these families, they are really involved. And these events, especially the Dave and Buster's event that I attended last year, I saw the relief and joy that the families were having for a couple reasons. Number one, because their child was happy, but also they were getting a break for an hour. That 1 hour was so precious to them. It was almost like, I see some of the parents, it was almost like a date night, even though they're with their kids. Just the fact that they were doing something with friends for an hour was such a release just for the family. And that has to be incredibly significantly valuable to the family.
Yeah. And we made note of that. Once I got to know some of these kids and I meet their family, you start to realize, wait, that's a divorced family. That's a divorced family. That's a divorced family. And I can't tell you the exact percentage. I knew it all last year. But I believe it's 80% of marriages with a kid with Down syndrome or autism end in divorce. That's twice as likely than a family without a kid like that. And because it causes a lot of tension, constantly having to monitor or be around. And so we saw that too at Dave and Buster's that year. And so in the spring of this year, we did an indoor kickball game where we were at the Eastern Hills Mall. They have an indoor baseball field or something. And we took the kids there, but the family stayed back at the Buffalo store, and Duff's brought them wings and beer. And so moms, dads, they got to have a date night while we took the kids for an hour and a half and played kickball. They could have some beer, eat some wings, have some pizza. We played a movie on a projector for them.
Oh, right on.
Yeah, so we're conscious about that. Debbie Cavers is on our board. She's Blake Cavers' mother, and she was kind of one of the forefront who said, you don't realize how many people in this community are divorced, and how important it is to try to strengthen those those bonds. So any event we do, we give the option for parents. You can stay, your mom, you can just stay and watch, or we can take the kids and put them, if you want them with a one-to-one mentor, we'll have a volunteer just with your kid, as well as group leaders and stuff, so that they can, like you said, have a break.
How do you find time to play football with all of this community work that you're doing?
We're all big babies. We have it pretty easy in the NFL. There's enough time in the day, I promise. You got to remember, there's just so much you can do physically, especially towards the end of the year. I mean, you can't work out for 4 hours a day and expect to play good on a Sunday. You just can't. So you do everything you need, and then while you recover, if I'm doing an ice bath for 20 minutes, well, I'm still on my phone organizing things, planning meetings. If I'm normateching in a massage chair for a half-hour session, I still got my phone that I can call and set up times with the Transit Drive-In or the Dave & Buster's or whatever it is. And then, when I finish watching my film in the evening, it still might be only 8:30. You can still get a hold of a lot of people. We have an off day. But I obviously rely on my board a lot in Buffalo to help me out. I got 3 members on there that do a lot of work for me too. But like I said, it just goes kind of hand in hand. And that's just the person I am. If I never made it to the NFL, I mean, if somebody randomly picked me, the civilian, out of the crowd and did an interview on me, you'd hear all the same stuff. It just wouldn't have as much traction because I'm not an NFL football player.
How much does it help you keep it all in perspective too? You've had injuries and different things that you've gone through in your NFL career, but I don't know, it seems like it'd be easier to stay grounded when you're doing all this stuff.
Yeah, it does. And I have a big struggle with finding my identity, not just in football. I want to, football is my biggest passion. So when football's not going good, whether it's the injury or playing time or not playing great, I mean, does that devalue who I am as a person? And the answer should be no, but it doesn't feel that way sometimes. And so working with the kids I work with, I remember when I wasn't playing for a couple games this year, having a couple of the playmakers like write me letters saying, "What are they doing? You're the best football player in the world. We love you so much." That type of support and love. And yeah, the day after I tore my ACL, when I went up to Oshai and, met some kids who maybe never get to walk again. And here I am complaining about a little knee injury. Like it does help keep things in perspective and, just keep you humble.
Harrison, are you going to be able to watch or enjoy the game on Sunday? I'm asking not only, obviously you got very close yourself, yeah, but I know that a lot of athletes generally, I don't think this is the norm, but I know that there are a lot out there who, if they're not involved, they could care less.
Yeah.
How do you handle the Super Bowl?
Yeah. I'll always watch the Super Bowl. I will. Whether it's family getting together or friends getting together, I'll watch it. This one obviously stings worse than anything. I mean, we were that close. Every one of these Super Bowl commercials could have very easily been of our team. But I like to watch the game too of these teams might be the same leading teams next year. And so I'm going to watch what their offense does in the most important game of the year. What's their, what formations are they running? Maybe their coaching, the coaching staff doesn't change. If their offensive coordinators don't leave and the head coaches stay, this is the same offense we're going to see next year. So, we saw Kansas City gave us 2 completely different offenses in the 2 games we played in. That first game, they rushed for 280 yards or whatever it was. And then this last one, they barely ran the ball at all and were throwing the whole time. So to see what they decided to do against Tampa Bay and what Tampa Bay decides to do against them, you can learn from it as much as it might sting and hurt. And, I feel like we should be playing in that thing. You either win or you learn. So try to find something that I can use into next year and see the way that they block and play, and hopefully it can give me a competitive advantage.
Are there things that I know that experience is a form of learning, and so that's that would be a broad strokes answer, but in the times that you've faced Tom Brady, are there things or there experiences about playing him that you can pinpoint of, okay, I just learned a lesson there, or he does this at a level that other guys don't, and I need to be mindful of that? I guess I want to say is, how much is he almost an instructor when you go up against him after and you review what just happened?
Rookie year, I'm just out there playing ball. And then, I think the second game I played them, I started picking up on some stuff because Kyle Williams was really, really great at, teaching me how Brady operates. But like you said, he does. He kind of controls the whole thing. And it's a cat and mouse game. So like you have to know us so well that you know what he sees in us and why he would call something. So just for example, not to get too technical, but I'm sure you guys know of an over front or an under front. Mm-hmm. So we run a lot of an over front. We have a handful of calls that are an under front, but we rarely line up in under. So if we decide to call a call that's an under front and they've got, a Sam or Poyer walk down, another linebacker on the line of scrimmage, Tom Brady's going to see that. Other quarterbacks might just call their same play and call it. Well, Tom Brady's going to see that. And so he's probably going to check something to run to the bubble. He's like, well, I know that they're going to run a blitz from this side. They're showing it. Or, very often does Tre'Davious White line up on number 2 receiver on the inside, right? He's always on the outside. Well, if Trey White's on the number 2, I bet he's blitzing, right? He's doing that to blitz. Some quarterbacks won't see that. And us, sometimes we get the play call. I'm like, okay, I got the A gap. That's all I'm thinking about. But if I can understand the full play call, I go, oh, hey, wait, our safety rotation is different. Micah and Poyer are on the same side. He's going to be able to see that we've got 4 aligned and that they're going to bring a blitz. So I got to know, hey, if he audibles or checks anything, it's either going to be a screen, a draw, or a run away from the pressure. And there's only a handful. Phillip Rivers did that against Indy. When we played them this year, as well as my rookie year against the Chargers. But those are some things that you have to know yourself so well that you know what he's doing. But he's the best at doing that I've played against. It's incredible to watch. And as much as so much of Buffalo and Western New York hate that man, I have a ton of respect for the player he is. It's incredible what he does.
How does it compare to the other quarterback that we'll see this weekend? Patrick Mahomes probably isn't quite at that level on recognizing it. I mean, he hasn't seen as much as Tom Brady, but like you said, they can run a different offense at you each time you come out and hurt you in so many ways.
Yeah, I believe I don't know fully how they operate in Kansas City, but I only got to play them once so far. The first time we played them, I was inactive that game, but I think. Obviously he's pretty smart. I could hear some of their offensive linemen calling out our stuff, telling him, hey, look out, there's going to be a twist here, or he's going to attack or whatever. But I think that Patrick, he trusts his athletic ability so much that instead of changing the play, he'll just be like, okay, he's blitzing here, I'm going to spin out of it and still go throw a play. Or, all right, these guys are both coming. Our play calls that way. I'm just going to, if it's sprint option or something, I'm going to hold it real long, fake a pitch, and then go. He trusts himself to beat the defense rather than the play call, I guess. Like where Tom Brady, he'll change his call to beat the defense, if that makes sense. And obviously, we've seen from Mahomes, he's done that many times.
Do you have a who do you prefer? I mean, does it matter at this stage? But the fact that you've played against Brady and know him so well, but the Chiefs just knocked you off, and maybe you'd like to say, hey, it took the Super Bowl champions to eliminate us.
Yeah, and that's how I was in the playoffs. I wanted to play Tennessee on the way to play the Chiefs. I wanted to avenge those. And, play Tennessee, beat them, play the Chiefs, beat them, and go. But I wanted to play Tom Brady. My rookie year when I got to play them, both times, those were my best games. And even this year when we played Cam, they kept, can't say similar offense because they ran so much with Cam, but similar run game. And those were, 2 of my better games this year as well. So I always loved playing against Tom Brady because if you do all the studying and you take all the prep work in, he'll come up to a line and just straight out call up what he's going to run. Hey, blunt gavel, Phil, and if you remember what that means, you know exactly what the play is. So I would rather play Tom Brady. Yeah.
Do you care who wins?
If the Chiefs win, then we know, that we're that close. You know what I mean? If Tampa comes out and smacks the Chiefs, well, then it's like, well, wow, it's not just win the AFC. Then you're going to have a huge test in the NFC. So I think if the Chiefs win, it gives us good perspective that, hey, we know top dog and what we got to do.
How close do you think you are? I mean, can you quantify it?
No, because we don't even know what next year's teams are going to look like. We got no idea who we're going to re-sign, who we're going to draft, what free agent are we going to get. The day before the game, I would have said with full certainty we're gonna win. We're gonna beat the Chiefs. That's the feeling that we had, and we could beat anybody. So it's just too tough to say. If we lined up again and had to play the Chiefs this week, I'd still tell you I believe we'd beat them. But this whole team's going to change. Their team's going to change. The NFL is going to change. So we'll have to talk training camp next year.
Do you think at all losing in the championship game is one of those experiences that will help you win a game like that or a Super Bowl in the future?
Yeah, I think the loss against Houston brought us to this stepping stone, and I think that the loss here is going to bring us to the next one. Like I said, you either win or you learn, and so we have enough guys in our room who are learning from this and hating that pain and hating that anger, and we'll fuel them.
Well, Harrison, as you're watching from the commissioner's box on Sunday, I guess that's the second best place to be. You've done something well off the field. If you can't be there in uniform for the game, to be there in the commissioner's box on Sunday, maybe you'll have some hardware with you before the end of the game. And again, Harrison Phillips is one of the finalists for the Alan Page Community Award. I misspoke earlier. Geno Atkins is a defensive tackle too, so I guess you're not the lone defensive tackle.
Yeah, this is Geno's third time being a finalist, so he might be a tough one to compete with. Yeah,
Susan Lucci went a lot of years though without winning that Emmy. Maybe you had a good year, Harrison. I think if you're an underdog in this situation, you're a live dog, that's for sure. And one of 32 nominees, he was the Bills candidate for the Walter Payton Man of the Year award, which will be announced. Is that halftime? Are they doing that still at halftime or? No,
I
NFL
think so.
honors.
Yeah.
Friday night, or when before the. Do you know? Well, why am I telling you? When is it?
I have no idea.
Okay. Well, at some point in the next couple of days.
Yes.
A lot of people consider it the most prestigious award in the NFL.
Yeah, that's what it was told to me as. This is the NFL's most prestigious honor.
Yeah. Well, Harrison Phillips, thanks for joining us, and good luck in Tampa.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you for having me on, guys.
Thank you.